All right, everybody. Good afternoon. Hope you are all doing super well on this Wednesday afternoon. I am so grateful to have you here together in this Zoom workshop to focus in on 8-week online course design. It is my pleasure to be with you. If anyone doesn't know me, my name is Michael, and I get to teach anthropology, and I'm also serving as your online education faculty coordinator, which is just the fancy term that means I get to serve faculty just like you all as we navigate the world of online teaching together. So it is my pleasure to be with you, and I'm grateful for your attendance today. If you have not already done so, please be sure to sign into the chat. I will also be taking the Zoom attendance list, forwarding to FPD for flex credit, but it always helps to have a backup plan just in case. So I appreciate you signing in to that chat if you want that flex. I'm going to do, well, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see the presentation. And once I am done, I will drop the link to this presentation in the Zoom chat for you all. So if you want it, you can have it. Okay. All right, you should be seeing 8-week online course design workshop. First slide on section A, content presentation. Before we dive in, just a couple of items of housekeeping. You are more than welcome to engage and ask questions throughout this presentation, although I do have about the last 10 to 15 minutes or so, about 2:45. I will conclude my presentation slides and open it up to this group for questions as well. You can use the raise hand function in Zoom. You can toss them into the chat, whatever style suits you. And also, we do have closed captions available for this meeting. Just click that CC button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and you should be able to see those while you follow along and engage. All righty then, let's do this. I am here today to share with you some best practices that relate to this 8-week shift that we're experiencing starting in fall 2024 at Long Beach City College. And there goes my slide. I always like to start my workshops with some goals so that you know, walking in the door, what sort of outcomes you might expect as a result of being here together today. First and foremost, I aim to show you how you can also identify and update key areas of your online course navigation and Canvas shell so that you create a really student-friendly and student-ready learning experience. Okay, I want to show you some tips that are tried and true, and I hope they're things that you want to try out as well. Next, we're going to develop an outcome-focused learning unit in an online course. And this is something that, in fact, spoiler alert, all of these things apply to all term lengths. But as we prepare to teach an 8-week course, some of us for the first time, we want to give them a little bit more attention than perhaps we have in the past, or perhaps than we ordinarily would. Next, we want to determine some of the best content presentation methods for your 8-week course. And that is an individualized approach. Okay, what works for me may not work for you. What works for you may not work for the person in the Zoom box next to you. That's okay. The key is determining what makes the most sense in your class, with your teaching style, with your subject matter, and with your students. And then finally, we want to offer student support and technology services and learner instructions effectively, right? We have a lot of tools for our students here at Long Beach City College. We want to make sure that those tools are being used, right? So I'm going to show you some things that hopefully many of them you can just copy paste right into your 8-week online course. Oh, about me, yes. So I already introduced myself, and that's a rather old photograph of me. You can tell how old it is because I still had light in my eyes back in that picture. But yeah, I've been teaching online for 10 plus years in a variety of term lengths and different modalities too. Again, presently, I'm in my second to last year as online education faculty coordinator. So, over these years, I've been able to do lots and lots of workshops, and this is actually my first one dedicated to the topic of 8-week online instruction. So it's very exciting to me to get to share this with you. I also serve as the college lead for Peer Online Course Review, which we affectionately call POCR. And I am a member of the 8-week course design work group here on campus, which is a collection of faculty that are putting out some of these best practices and recommendations as we all navigate 8-week teaching together. All right, let me set the scene for you. Let me give you a little bit of context. And again, there's more to this, so I'm just going to summarize. First of all, why 8-week? Okay, so there's a variety of reasons for this, and I'm just going to touch on a few. But I want to highlight the first bullet point here. Starting in fall 2024, Long Beach City College will be offering about 30% of our classes in the 8-week format. That is spread across modalities, primarily asynchronous online. And then next behind that is face-to-face on campus. Okay, so this is a substantial increase from previous semesters. Data do show that 8-week courses have served specific programs, departments, and student populations. And you can see some of that evidence in second and third bullet points there. And we also want to keep in mind our indirect matriculants. And I don't know about y'all, but I didn't know what that actually meant until about last year. An indirect matriculant is one of our students that comes to us not right out of high school, which the number of indirect matriculants at Long Beach City College is increasing over time, which is a great thing. These students are expressing that due to work or family obligations, an 8-week course can serve them very well. We want to keep those students in mind too. Survey. A couple weeks ago, I got to administer a survey to 384 of our faculty colleagues here at the college. And you may have received the survey. If you're scheduled to teach 8 weeks in fall 24, you should have received it. I'm not going to share the entire thing, but I do want to share a few highlights. For example, okay, it was sent to 380 some odd folks. We got 60 responses. And this gives you a sense, the breakdown of the different modalities that folks are teaching 8-week courses in fall 2024. I like the bar graph better. Here we go. It was about 50-50 part-time faculty and full-time faculty who responded. So I appreciate having all these voices in the survey. And respondents, 80% of the respondents said, yeah, I've done this before. 18 said no, and one maybe wasn't sure. That's okay. Here we asked respondents what they would like to learn more about to prepare to teach an 8-week course. And in fact, the bar graphs, the bars are deceiving. Look at the percentages. Okay, you can see the highest percentage is on equity-minded practices. And then also what the primary concerns were for faculty teaching an 8-week course. The highest response, I'm concerned about students falling behind in my 8-week course. And I know that's a legitimate concern, but we do have things we can do within our power to address that concern. And then finally, what you feel most confident about. Respondents felt very confident, effectively managing student questions, which is great. We want to communicate effectively. That is absolutely key in a compressed course where missing an email can make a difference in a student's progress overall. Okay, so again, just wanted to give you that little bit more context of where the college is and also where our faculty are. Oops, let me zip ahead. Here we go. Bingo. All right, some guiding principles. If you've been to one of my workshops before, you've probably heard me say this already because it's something I truly believe in. I do not think there is going to be a one-size-fits-all answer to effective 8-week teaching. I said it before, what works for me may not work for you. That's okay. The key is finding out what makes the most sense for you and your classes. Secondly, simply cram 16 weeks of content into an 8-week course, that's likely not going to go very well for you or for the students. It's a lot. There will need to be some modifications and design differences in what we do and how we do it. I like to emphasize the idea of backwards design. And we'll talk about this a little bit later in the slides, is looking at our outcomes and objectives first, and then building our assessments, and then building our content to meet or to align with those outcomes. And then finally, again, another throwback, if you've been to one of my workshops in the past, I'm always talking about the CVC OEI rubric, which provides this really helpful framework on not just what we do, but how we do it in the online teaching and learning space. These are some guiding principles that we're going to carry onward for the presentation today. Again, here I want to give you a little bit more context of the CVC OEI. This is a statewide initiative, and pretty much all the community colleges up and down the state employ this rubric in some way, either through training or workshops or evaluation. So it's a very helpful tool to check in and see, look in the mirror, see how we're doing as online instructors. There are 4 sections of course design put forward in that CVC OEI rubric, the first of which is today's topic. Section A, content presentation. That's really getting into how do we delineate our course material? How do we teach? What is most effective based on modality and term length? Again, what I do in my 16-week online course, it's going to need to be modified to make sense in an 8-week course. The second section is interaction. We're actually talking about that next week at next week's workshop, which is all about communication. What is effective communication? What is timely communication? What is that realistically going to look like in an 8-week class? We might need to modify some things compared to other term lengths that we've done in the past. Section C is all about assessment. Really, that's how we measure the learning. How are we ensuring that students are reaching the outcomes and objectives and able to move on to the next level if we teach courses in a sequence? And an 8-week course likely requires adjustment of our exams, quizzes, projects, or papers. But again, that can vary based on what you teach and how you like to teach it. And then finally, section D, accessibility, our final workshop in this 4-part series, which focuses on making sure our content, our assignments, everything meets our students where they are and is accessible to every single one of them. Luckily, we have a lot of tools at Long Beach City College that serve us and our students exceptionally well. In that final workshop, I'm going to show you how to use them for an 8-week course specifically, so that we get this done in a timely manner. But again, today is all about section A, content presentation. There are 4 parts to be considered in section A on content presentation: unit objectives, how we use Canvas, student support or learner support, and then institutional support. And what I'm going to do is flip between my slides today and a sample Canvas shell so that I can provide with you the best practice, and then I can show you exactly what it can look like in a Canvas shell. And anytime I have the opportunity to show a Canvas shell, or really show my Canvas shell to other faculty, I always preface it by saying, you do not have to do things the way that I do them. what I'm going to show you is one way that you can provide these materials. Now, you are welcome to borrow anything that you see, like you straight up copy paste it, more power to you. But I'm not telling you that you have to do anything in this specific way. I always like to preface that, even when I'm working with faculty one-on-one and showing them what I do. This works for me, right? And my goal is to help you better understand what's going to work for you. So let's get into it with the first bit, course orientation and welcome. We've all heard the phrase, there's only one chance to make a first impression. Online teaching is a little unique spin on that because we may never see our students face to face. We may never talk to them live if it's an asynchronous course. Our first impression, in many ways, is our Canvas shell. I mean, think about that for especially like a brand new student. Okay, maybe a freshman right out of high school, or maybe an indirect matriculant who's coming back to college for the first time in 15 years. Making that first impression can make or break the experience, especially in a compressed course, where the first week largely is about making that first impression. Let's get into some details. First and foremost, we want to welcome our students to the online classroom. And there are a number of different ways that we can do that. Lots of instructors do videos and welcoming syllabi, and they tell students about themselves and invite students to share about themselves. All of that is great. This is wonderful. Keep it up. I'm providing a link here from Michelle Pacansky-Brock on humanizing ourselves in an online class. And this provides research-based approaches for what we can do and how we can do it. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. So I'm going to drop this directly into the chat. And I'll also give you my slides once we're done. Okay? So strongly recommend. There's one thing we want to strive for is ensuring that when our students log into Canvas, they are well aware there is a human being on the other side of the computer designing this content, right? It's not just, Canvas can't just be a repository for slideshows or readings or quizzes. It's a learning space. And the way we design our Canvas shells and the way we present and humanize ourselves in that online space can make students feel like they belong and make them feel like they are welcomed and valued in that learning space, just like we do in the face-to-face classroom. Next item is about offering support and technology services. 8-week compressed courses, we and our students need to be ready to hit the ground running. In order to do that effectively, we want to employ both passive and active provision of student support resources. And I'm going to show you exactly what this can look like in your Canvas shell. Okay? Let me do this. Okay, this is a Canvas shell, and it is a draft Canvas shell because I'm actually preparing this for the upcoming semester. But when students log in, first thing they see is my homepage. And I teach anthropology. This is a course in linguistic anthropology. Now, we know that in the navigation here, there's all sorts of help and resources that students can click on. I urge you to also provide links to technology help, such as the Student Technology Help Desk, right on your homepage. That's taking too long to load. These are also well placed in your syllabus documents, in your welcome emails. I don't think we can overdo it with providing these resources. Even if I click on my module, here we go. in my welcoming module, okay, I have a whole page just devoted to providing resources. And I did not create this. It's embedded from the LBCC website. If you want this, I'll just copy and paste the HTML code and you can have it. Piece of cake. And so this way, whenever the website changes, it changes automatically within my Canvas shell. So this is really the first step at providing those passive student support and technology resources. And that alone can be enough for many of our students. However, I also urge you to very actively offer support to our students who may need a little bit more assistance. And what I mean by that, go back to Canvas. If we don't begin the course by learning about what our students need to succeed, it's not likely they're going to tell us come, week 4, 5, or 6. And frankly, by week 6 in a compressed course, that might be too little too late. So let me show you here one thing that I love to do. And I do this in my other modalities as well, hybrid, face-to-face. But I always give an About Them survey. It's 4 points, so they get credit for it. Well, let me highlight some of the questions that I ask. Okay, first thing, how can I help you be successful in this class? I can't tell you how many students respond to that question saying, man, I've never been asked that before. What do I need to be successful? I'm not really sure. So it kind of starts this metacognition about what they think they might need, which frankly, if they do nothing else on the first day of class, but think about what they need to be successful, we will have done our jobs. To start off thinking about their thinking. Next up, right away, have you taken an 8-week class before? Do you foresee any challenges to completing this course in 8 weeks? And right there, you might get some students reply, wait, this class is 8 weeks long? Don't be surprised or frustrated if they respond in that way. Instead, take it as an opportunity to clarify and demystify. Yep, we start today. We end on mid-October, whatever that may be in the fall. Okay. Are you still interested in taking the class, or do you want to switch over to a 16-week version? Okay. Because some students might see that and think, uh-oh, this is not for me. And that's good. That's okay. Right. It's good that they're having that realization now instead of week 7. Okay. A couple other things I suggest 8-week instructors ask. Have you taken the class before? And if the answer is yes, then the presumption would be they didn't pass it or they withdrew for whatever reason that may be. But then asking, how can I support you being successful this time? Right? You might be surprised, especially if you have a lot of student majors taking your courses. How many of them might not pass, but then retake it with a different instructor or with the same instructor. And, I urge you, bring those students in under your wing and really support them, because I think most students are successful the second or third time they take that course. This one's really important. How do you plan to complete the work in your class? Do you have a computer or a tablet or shared computer? Please be as descriptive as possible. Right there, the response to question 4 should be setting off our little bells, as in, okay, they have a computer, but they don't have Wi-Fi. Or, they use the Canvas app. Oh, that doesn't work very well with the formatting guidelines I require on my research paper. Okay, so right there is the opportunity to share with them student resources, such as basic needs. They can request a hotspot. They can request a laptop loan for free from the college. So using this as an opportunity, not just to humanize ourselves and humanize our students, but to do a little bit of triage and figure out, okay, where are my students right now? And how can I effectively reach out and provide them what they need to be successful? Because 8 weeks can go by pretty quickly, okay? And I also urge you, speaking of humanization, provide your own responses to these questions or similar questions. Students like to know that stuff about us as well. Let's see. Okay, great. Oops, here we go. And finally, on the course orientation and welcome, we want to share our course policies and expectations. That is all about what I like to call the demystification on what it takes to succeed, right? And I want to show you. This is one way that I like to do it. Okay, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so you can see kind of the big picture here. Week 1 of the course begins with a course orientation. And in fact, this class specifically, it's a partially online one. So I get to see the students on Mondays and Wednesdays for an hour and a half. And then they get to go on Canvas for the remaining 50% of the contact hours during that week. So I start off with things for them to do between the Monday and Wednesday class meeting, which begins with the class orientation. Okay, telling them exactly what to expect, providing their syllabus in an easy to read format within Canvas, telling the students a little bit about myself, letting them know, again, I'm repeating myself intentionally here, again, where they can get some help. And then demystifying, what is this partially online 8-week learning? And I just break it down. Look, we're in class this time. You need to bring pens and paper. We are in this room. Then you are online for 3 hours per week, whenever works for you. And you should have these things. Shout out to the OLET team for providing a new video and resources related to 8-week online learning. I put them right in here for my students so they can check these out right away and understand what it takes to succeed. In addition, the resource page, which I already shared with you, and course policies and practices, right? What's attendance all about? Okay. Grading practices. What does that look like? Late work. What's your late policy? Clearing that up. Because all of these things are going to be factored in as your students weigh and measure, is an 8-week course right for me? Okay. And then they get into their survey that I showed you already. So again, this slide really is all about making that stellar first impression with our online students, offering them generalized but also targeted supports for what they really need, and then making sure the expectations of the 8-week compressed course is inescapably clear. And I urge you to think about, when we share our expectations, is it in, are we trying to scare off the students? Are we trying to, make sure they are well informed of the expectation? There's a lot of ways that we can present the information. I urge you to do it in a way comparable to how you would communicate face-to-face. One thing I've heard many times over the years of working with faculty to revise their syllabi is that, oh, I don't know why I wrote that in my syllabi. I would never say that to a student's face. And well, yeah, that idea extends to our Canvas shells and our emails and our research paper prompts. It extends to everything we write or type and put online for them. So consider how you would share this info with a student if they were sitting next to you in an office hour, and we could present it in a comparable way online. Next up, so big, Consider the user experience. And I say user experience, arguably I could have put student experience, but I wanted to be very specific with, what the students are doing is they are using our Canvas shell. They're not just, they're not just passively popping in, they're putting it to use. Couple things here, and I'm going to show all these bullets at the same time. First off, creating a clear, easily navigable Canvas shell. This requires us to get into the student's shoes. Here's the thing. Every single one of us, myself included, when I build a Canvas shell, it makes perfect sense in my head. It makes perfect sense to me. Oh yeah, of course. Where else would you click to find your assignments? Where else would you go to see the announcements? It all makes perfect sense to me. But guess what? In a few months, I'm going to have 40 new users, students, go into that Canvas shell, and it's not going to make sense to all of them. Again, maybe this is their first time seeing Canvas ever. Maybe this is their first time turning on a computer in 10 years. We simply don't know, and we cannot presume any online learning experience from our students. Even in the world of post-COVID, we shouldn't assume that they've seen Canvas before. So what does that mean? Okay. In terms of design, we want to get into the student's shoes. Let me show you. I mentioned before, when students log in, they are immediately taken to my Canvas homepage. In my experience and in our trainings at Long Beach City College, the homepage is for three things. One, welcome the students to the class. Boom. Two, provide instructor contact information. Done. And third, tell them how to navigate the course with clear guidance and links. Done. And again, this is an 8-week course. There are 8 modules, 1 module per week. I even have a little button that literally tells them, let's go. Click here to get started. On the first week of class, it even gets, I make it a little bit bigger so it's inescapably clear. Yes, this is where you start, right? And when students click that button, they're taken to that module on the module page. And every page, I showed you these already, but I'm going to emphasize it again, features instructions on what to do next. Instructions, look at the page, click next to continue. And again, being on Canvas for X number of years, we're just saying, oh, well, what else would you do besides click next? Well, a new online student might not know that. A little prompt, a little arrow. Okay, I'll click next. Yeah, even at the end of the module, I'm skipping to the very bottom of this module. Module complete. You did it. Wait, sit tight for the next module to open up. Okay, so making things really, really clear. And my advice to you is if you're unsure of how clear your Canvas shell is, show it to a colleague. Even better, open up your Canvas shell, ask your colleague to sit down for 5 minutes and just let them navigate through it. And if they're not able to figure out what they need to do within a given week of the course, okay, let's rethink how we do the course navigation here. Because here's if your students, if our students are struggling finding out what they are supposed to do in an 8-week course, it's going to be very hard for them to learn in that 8-week course. We rarely learn well when we're frustrated by the technology. Okay. And that leads really well into the second point, using Canvas tools effectively, right? This gets into how our content is presented. Look, look, look. Okay, I'm going back to my modules. I told you I'm still building this course, and it was true, but I also built in some sample pages, okay? So many online instructors, when they teach, offer slideshow presentations in Canvas. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. However, I do think that there are more effective ways at presenting PowerPoint slideshows in Canvas. And with a little tweaking of what we ordinarily might do, you can really embellish and use Canvas tools more effectively. Let me show you. What's very common is when we have a slideshow, we click on the plus symbol, we click on the file, and then we select the file, the PowerPoint file, and click Add Item. That's very, very common. And when we do that, we get a page that looks like this. Students click on it. The PowerPoint opens up on their page. Sometimes it doesn't quite fit. Maybe they'll figure out how to stretch it a little bit, but even still, look what that does. That looks a little funky, huh? So in addition, there's no way for us to type above or below, prompting them what to do or where to click. In the world of online teaching, this is, it's missing a few things that can really serve our students. Now, on the flip side, if we create a new page, we embed our slideshows in that page and click Expand Preview by default, look what the students see. Now we get to type in and introduce the topic, and then they'll see the PowerPoint. They can scroll through it, and then they'll be able to, oh, I forgot to put in the prompt to click next, but the prompt to click next would be at the bottom. Even further, look. On this page, I just said, forget the PowerPoint. Let me just type out what was in that PowerPoint. And I'm going to put the image from the PowerPoint in the Canvas page. I'm going to put some videos that I would ordinarily show in class. They're not my videos, they're from YouTube. And that'll be the end of it. And then a fourth option, look at this, some typed content, embedded file, video, my own video, which I annotate the PowerPoint, followed by additional content and short video clips below with a prompt to click next to continue. Okay? So using the Canvas tools effectively requires you to consider how you currently present content. If you are currently presenting content in only one way, so only slideshows or only videos or only typed text, that can be a little bit repetitive in an 8-week compressed course. And I'll talk a little bit more about varying the way that we present our content on the next slide. And then on this slide, also talk about actionable feedback. Okay, and I always tell folks, we need to be mindful that our students can get surveyed a lot. So be mindful of the fatigue and the time it takes for our students to fill out surveys. For an 8-week course, I recommend a survey at 4 weeks and a survey at the end. No more than 2 surveys. If you are being evaluated, okay, probationary evaluation or part-time evaluation, you might even want to consider cutting out that mid-semester evaluation so that students, I need to do the contractual one. That's the priority when you're being evaluated. But these surveys can take a variety of forms. I'm going to show you 2 options here. One option, okay, week 4, halfway through the course, mid-semester anonymous evaluation. I just made a little Microsoft form and stuck it here in Canvas. And if this is something you want to try, let me know. I'll send you a video on exactly how to do this thing. But asking things that we wouldn't ordinarily get asked in a contractual evaluation, like the class meetings are organized, the Canvas content is organized, I visited office hours this semester, workload reasonable, I'm learning interesting things, I feel my professor's here to help me, I feel a sense of belonging. I even asked them what day they typically log into Canvas because I'm curious, like, when do they log in and do their work? And then some open-ended feedback that they can provide. Yeah. At the end of the semester, it's even more open-ended. Okay, just a few questions here. Look, I love this one. What would you say to a friend who's considering taking this class? And you know what you might hear? I would tell my friend, take the class, but not in an 8-week format. One thing I'm hearing a lot from my partially online students, my hybrid students now, is, oh, I wish we met twice a week instead of only once a week. So students are understanding what their learning preferences are in terms of term length and modality. And a lot of times they would say that to a friend considering taking the class. So it's a good practice to learn from our students' experiences. Next up, be a learning guide. Okay? That can mean a variety of things depending on your modality. But here's what I want to share with you now. First of all, begin with our outcomes. It all comes from our outcomes. I linked the COR here. This is likely familiar to you all via our syllabus submission and SLO checking process. If I teach Anthro 4 and I find the right one and I navigate to outcomes, boom, and objectives, boom. When I'm designing my content for the 8-week course, I'm always going back to these things. And in fact, as my slide suggests, is I begin every learning unit with the outcomes and objectives of that learning unit. Right? So look, when I start a learning unit, I'll go up here. Unit 1, objectives and goals. Every unit begins with this page, with different content, obviously. But I tell students, here's what we're going to do. And I get into some of the details of what we're going to do. And then I say, and those things align with the following objectives for this course. Where on earth did I get those objectives? Well, oops, not there. Right here from the objectives page. And then often it will lead to an overarching outcome of the course. Again, early on, not quite leading to an outcome in this first module because most of it's introductory anyway. But every single module that we do, especially in an 8-week course, we need to ensure is leading to our outcomes and objectives in the course. That's so, and stating it outright and even putting it in to the content. You know, if we look at a content page on a specific topic, oops, sorry, wrong one. We can even put it here. Look, this content supports the following learning objective. Okay? So making it very explicit of not just what we're learning, but why we're learning that thing. Next off, sparking student curiosity. Share stories from your experience as a student or in the particular field. Give them culturally relevant examples that speak to their lived experiences. And I'll tell you, every single one of these objective and goal pages has a little video. It's 2 minutes long. It's not terribly detailed, but it's usually me telling a story, giving encouragement or support, right? Because this is my little way of sparking their interest in the content that is to come. All right, this is my way of being a guide and sharing my stories and also inviting them in. I mean, look, they can comment and ask me questions right below the video here. And this is Canvas Studio, by the way. And again, if you haven't used it and you want to try it, shoot me an email. We'll get you a guide and a workshop recorded on how exactly to do this. Okay, I love this tool. And then offer learner instructions for what students are supposed to do within the online classroom. That is so essential. And it's something I have needed to work on a lot in my online classes over the past few years, because I was of the assumption if I post a video for my students, that they will sit there diligently and take notes the entire video length. Yeah, I don't do that when I watch videos. So why would I expect it of my students? Okay, we would never walk into our physical classroom, press play on a video, and then walk out. We would say, look, students, I'm going to play this for you. I want you to look for A, B, and C as you watch. And please, I urge you, consider what that can look like in your online classroom. For example, oh, that's just their textbook reading. Look, so here's a video. It's only about 7 minutes long. It's not terribly long. But look, right here above the video, while you watch, please do the following. Write the main ideas, select a subfield of anthropology you want to learn more about, pause and rewatch, and look for key concepts from chapter 1. Yep. And again, have a question, ask it here, and they can help. Ask a comment about the video. So that is part of, again, guiding our students to actually use the content in the course. That's so important in all classes, in all lengths, in all modalities, but especially for an 8-week course that may go at a little faster pace than what they're used to. And finally, the content question. How much is too much? Yeah? Going to do these two together. Chunk, believe it or not, is a technical term from the CVZ OEI on how we structure our learning content. It comes in two phases, really. Chunking our learning units or chunking our modules and chunking our content pages. The main idea here is so that it's a reasonable amount of content within a reasonable amount of time. Now, granted, we have already set the expectation for what students are to expect in the 8-week course. That page is escaping me right now, but you remember when we saw it. So once we have set that expectation, it's our job to ensure that our content reasonably fits into that expectation. So what can that look like? Well, depending on your course material, the number of units of the course, it might look a little different. But for me, it looks like this. Remember, this is a hybrid course. So students meet with me on Monday. I put it right here in the module. See you Monday. And then after Monday, okay, here's what I want you to do between Monday and Wednesday. These pages and an assignment. And then we have a class meeting on Wednesday. See you then. And then what to do after the class meeting. And then that introductory lesson to anthropology. I even build in breaks. Look, students are going along, looking at the module, reading along, and they click next and, oh, okay, I'll take a break. We do that in our face-to-face classes. Why wouldn't we do it online? If we build in the breaks, just like we do in a face-to-face class, maybe students would actually finish the module instead of just, I'm going to stop and come back later, and they may not come back. Yeah? That goes for pages too, right? What is a reasonable amount of content on a single page? Consider that many students might look at our pages on their phone or tablet right? And sometimes if we have pages that are too long or with too many videos or pictures or files, it might take a long time to load on a phone or a slower internet connection. So there's not like a specific word count I'm going to tell you to reach. But as you look at the page, I tend to err on the side of brevity. I would rather break it up. Okay, I'm just going to focus on what is anthropology. And then I'm going to focus on this next topic, as opposed to having all these topics together in an 85 slide PowerPoint. That's a lot of clicking for students to go through in one sitting. And then employing a variety of multimedia as opposed to one method of delineating content. And that's probably something that you've already gathered from the way that I build my pages. I like to employ videos, images, files throughout the Canvas course. And guess what? This video summarizes what's already being stated in writing below, which is also mentioned in their textbook. So it's multiple ways of presenting and representing similar material, right? So that way it meets a variety of learning methods and preferences from our students. So offering our content in more than one way is something we should be front loading. And what I mean by that is if you're starting to teach 8 weeks online in the fall, then our preparation should begin in the summer. Well, early into the summer, I would argue, because trying to prepare a variety of multimedia 1 week at a time in an 8-week course, to me, has been a recipe for burnout. Okay, so front loading, doing a little bit at a time, makes it much more manageable for ourselves as teachers. And then finally, consider offering more than one learning unit at a time. Presently, in my 16-week course, students get one module at a time. I'm going to change that. When I'm teaching 8 weeks in the fall with this new approach, I'm going to offer 2 weeks at a time. So that way students can, if they're having a rough week and they fell behind, they can easily go back. Or maybe if they're zipping through it, they can work ahead, right? So I'm going to offer 2 weeks at a time. Maybe you want to offer a little bit more than that or a little bit less, but think about it as it applies to your content. With that, I want to urge you to learn more. Clearly, I could talk about this for a while, but I'm not. But I want you to continue learning more about 8-week online course design. And we've put out this resource for you. It is quite robust. It was in the email with this workshop registration link, but it is linked in the slideshow as well. And then I hope you can return next week, because next week we're going to talk about the communication in the online learning space and what makes the most sense for an 8-week term length. Okay, and here's registration link right here. In fact, I'm going to minimize this and share the link now, because anybody might be getting ready to go. Let me adjust. Anybody with the link can view, apply, dropping it in chat for you. Boom. There it is. If you're having trouble accessing, please let me know. With that, I do want to thank you. We are so close to 3 o'clock. Where did that time go? My goodness gracious. This was fun for me. I hope you took something away, but I do want to stop the recording and answer any questions that you might have right here, right now. So those of you watching this later, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be in touch. Hope to see you at the next workshop.